Views and opinions expressed within the following program are solely those of the individual. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of Shaw TV.
Hey Calgary, I'm Kevin Chorney. Today is December 6th and this is Calgary Now. It seems like Calgary rush hour has turned into an all-day affair, with only short lulls in the amount of traffic on the roads. Calgary transit trains are packed earlier and for longer in the morning and the afternoon commute. Traffic woes are not new for any Calgarian, yet rather than getting better with all the road expansion and transit improvements, it seems everything that's being done is too little, too late. That Calgary has grown a lot in recent years and is continuing to grow is no secret. So what's the city to do to ease the strain on our infrastructure? Is smart planning in the works? Or is it a matter of getting cars off the road? Traffic is a lose-lose for everybody. It affects commerce, is detrimental to the environment, and detracts from our quality of life. It's pretty clear, if you own a car in Calgary, you've dealt with your fair share of traffic. I mean, come on. With one of the largest car ownership rates in North America and the lack of a subway mass transit system, we've got to be some of the most patient people around. Yeah, right. So how do we curb the problem? Can we plan for a better future road system? Can Calgary Transit save the day and get cars off the streets? Or is the continued population growth and sprawl of the city dooming us all? I'm about to sit down with some people who can hopefully shed some light on what it is we need to do to again find some semblance of peace on our city roadways. As always, we welcome you to join our discussion over the phone. You can get us at 403-539-6710, or if cyberspace is your thing, drop us a tweet at Calgary Now Show. Stay with us.
Traffic in Calgary, huge issue, super frustrating. I mean, it affects obviously all of us in some capacity. I think that the problem lies in two main, I guess, kind of factors, and one being the transit system. You know, we've all heard kind of the different problems and different things that are lacking with it right now. And then really just our roads. You know, I think that we're not that huge of a city in comparison to some others, and it seems that our way of getting around is a little bit dated. One of the big things I think is that in terms of kind of the main roads such as Deerfoot and that kind of thing, I think we can use more freeway style roads. They've got the Stony Trail kind of ring road coming into place, but it seems that it more works on kind of outer city connection or getting you from one area, one end of Calgary to the other, that kind of thing, but not so much on getting into the different cores and into downtown. So ultimately I'd like to see more, I guess, freeway style roads and more road options, and I think that would probably help a lot.
Welcome back. Let's get right to it. Joining us tonight is Noel Keel from the University of Calgary, Alderman Brian Pincott, and Gord Alenko from the city. Guys, thanks very much for being here.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. I'll give you an opportunity to just tell us a little bit about yourselves. First, go ahead, Noel.
Right now I teach in the Faculty of Environmental Design. I teach planners, urban designers, and architects, and I also work with a not-for-profit called Sustainable Calgary Society. Good
for you. Busy guy. You write as well.
Yeah, I write a column every 2 weeks, column in Fast Forward around city issues, planning issues, yeah.
Cool beans. Brian, Ward 11?
Yeah, city councilor. Been there, city councilor for just over 5 years, and I don't know, that's pretty much it.
You like the job?
It's like my entire life. No, I love the job. It's an absolute blast. It's varied. You can do, it's every half hour is like something different you're dealing with, and from something incredibly local to international stuff.
To TV. Look at you go.
To TV, right, yeah.
Gord, how about yourself?
Traffic engineering at the City of Calgary, and so we manage the road network, and we're responsible to keep Calgary on the move.
Fair enough. I'm glad you're here. That's perfect that you are here. That's what we're talking about, obviously. Gentlemen, traffic. Now, a 2011 Citizen Satisfaction Survey cited traffic as nearly the #1 issue. Now, traffic affects our quality of life. How so? I'll start with you, Noel.
How does it affect our traffic quality of life? Well, I don't think there are too many people that enjoy sitting in their automobiles in traffic. I think it's also, I mean, obviously from an economic point of view, there's a lot of work that's been done to show the economic cost of building all those roads for all those cars that we buy, and year by year the cost of owning an automobile goes up and up. And I think on the social dimension too, I think there's more and more awareness that not everybody in the city can afford a car. And if you don't have a car in the city, you're at a real disadvantage in trying to get around.
It's true, and I want to talk a bit about the walkability of communities in just a brief moment here. Brian, what are you hearing from your constituents about traffic?
Wow. Well, I mean, generally you need to sort of always step back and listen to what the message is and what people are saying. So, yeah, people complain about traffic, but ultimately they want to be able to get where they want to go. They want to be able to get around, and they're looking for those kinds of solutions. And I think that if you sort of start stepping back from people yelling about traffic and actually listen to what is the real message, which is I want to be able to get around effectively, efficiently from point A to point B, then you start sort of looking at it a little bit differently and looking at solutions a little bit differently.
Well, it's clear that people aren't getting around from A to B in maybe the time frame that they'd had in mind.
Well, we all want 5 minutes, no matter what.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's important to note. Things
we all
have
want
to be
5
considered.
minutes. 5 minutes walking or
to be realistic. No, absolutely. But with that in mind, Gord, what's the city doing to try and ensure that people, maybe not getting the 5-minute commute, but those that are vocal about shorter distances taking longer time as the city grows?
Well, I think the Calgary Transportation Plan gives a great framework for choices for transportation. So it's about multimodal transportation. It's about increasing the opportunities for walking, cycling, transit, as well as making sure that we maintain a business environment that we can transport goods efficiently around the city as well. So it's about balancing those different types of modes, and it's about the choices that people want to make with regards to sustainability and how that affects them.
So intermodal transportation, maybe talk a little bit more about that.
So multimodal, which would be
multimodal,
which would be different modes of transportation. The pyramid of transportation being walking. Every transportation trip starts with a walking segment.
Out of the car to the driveway, out of the house to the driveway to the car, sure. Maybe to the bus stop, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And cycling can now play a greater role in that transportation trip. So we're working on providing opportunities for commuter cyclists, as well as cycling as a lifestyle. So we're more recreational, and even potentially tourists that can use cycling as a way to
cycling,
see
it's an interesting one. It's one we should probably talk a little bit more about.
Sure.
Now, there's two camps here, clearly. There's those that would rather have that road space available for cars, and of course there's those who enjoy the joy of cycling. Where's the right answer?
Oh, the right answer is in the mix.
Yeah.
The right answer is in providing for everybody. I think that Noel has written about this, but our focus has been around how do we move cars around our city. That has been our historical focus. Yeah. We need to actually, in that equation, remove car, insert people. How do you start moving people? How do we move people around to where they want to go? And I think what Gord's talking about is looking at all of the different transportation choices. It's opening up choice. I mean, Noel said it. Yeah, if you don't own a car, historically in our city, if you don't own a car, you're kind of hooped, because it is built specifically for getting cars around. We open that up so that other means work, walking, cycling, transit. Ironically, you actually make the cars work way, way better by giving people more choices. We, on average, Calgarians, when we figure out sort of how much traffic is going to be generated, it's 10 trips per day, 10 car trips per day that you start figuring out. So this isn't about making sure that people don't have a car. It's about saying instead of 10 trips a day, you're only going to do 4 trips a day by car.
10 trip a day number.
Yeah.
How does that come about?
To and from work. Take the kids to and from school, to and from the grocery store, to and from dance class, to and from soccer class. Soccer, and it adds up.
That's the average Calgarian, 10 trips a day.
10 trips a day. That's what you figure out.
That's a big number.
I think when I look back historically, I've been in the city 30 years now, and I think the car is still dominant, but it's not on an upward trajectory. And I think what we've got to do with planning is to kind of get ahead of people's own preferences. So, for example, I jog a bit, and 30 years ago, not very many people jogged in our city. A lot of people jog, a lot of people walk now. Yeah. I'm a cyclist, a commuter cyclist. When I started cycling, 25 years ago, when I was working downtown, not very many people biking, but now there's tons of people biking.
And more.
And the LRT, I think, is a it's a success story in North America, and it's packed, and it's getting hard to ride the LRT. We need more cars, and we need more lines, but it's a huge success, and it runs on wind. It's not generating any pollution.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So, as far as the walkability is concerned, is that the responsibility of the city? Is it the responsibility of developers? I mean, where does this onus live?
I think it's the responsibility. I mean, the developers build what the city allows them to build and encourages them to build. So, first and foremost, it has to start with the city.
With the city, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about money being spent, if we could. Obviously, I think there's maybe a couple schools of thoughts here. Do we put more money towards adequate roads, building more roads, the city of the car, like you touched on, or is transit our savior?
Well, I'll start, but you're going to finish,
right?
You
go.
So I think the thing is that there isn't a silver bullet, right? So there isn't a single silver bullet that's going to solve all of these problems. And I think I come back to in our vision around a 60-year plan for transportation, it's about providing all of those choices and making sure that we have the ability to ensure that people still can get around the city with a car, that we can still move goods, that we can provide more facilities that are of a quality and of safety that our citizens demand around cycling and around pedestrian access.
So that's the way we're going. That's the trend.
For sure.
You would agree, Brian?
I agree. And there is no silver bullet because everybody's solution is different. Right? We've only built, historically, only built one solution, which is roads for cars. Yeah. We're recognizing and we're starting to build a city that recognizes that everybody's solution is different. Noel will jog. You're never going to catch me jogging, but I will ride my bike.
Yeah,
I bike commute. A lot of people that doesn't work. A lot of people transit won't work for. But for a lot of people, transit does work. And we're seeing that in Calgary, we are truly a city of if you build it, they will come. Our transit system, the ridership has been growing larger than our population growth every year for the last 20 years. Calgarians want to make those choices. If you provide it for them, they do make it.
I want to jump into it too in terms of the numbers, and I think one of the things that some of the research that we've been doing with Sustainable Calgary at the university is looking at trying to get a handle on how much we actually fork out for transportation. So one of the pieces of research we did a couple of years ago, we looked at government spending at all levels of government and private spending. How much are we spending for transportation? And it was really eye-opening to me because what we found was that about 80% of, there's like over a 10-year period, there's about $70 billion that we spend on transportation, Calgarians, private and public, so our governments and for our automobiles. 80% of that is for the private automobile, to buy, own, and operate a private automobile. 80% of that money. 80%. Now, if you look at a 50-year period and translate how much we spend on automobiles, over $500 billion is the estimate.
When you hear that number, that's
it's mind-boggling,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that
so? What could we do with investment of $500 billion if we could find a way? And the big issue here is the silos we build between the public and the private. So one of the things that we try to impress upon folks at the city, I think, is that we really need. Transportation planning is doing a good job, but I think we need to really take into account the cost to the private costs, the cost of automobile ownership into that whole puzzle of what should we be doing in terms of the strategy for transportation. Right. And when you look at it from that perspective, I think there's a balance certainly, but I think right now the dominant mode of the car is probably the least efficient way to get around in an urban environment. Yeah. It's the one that's dominant now, but I think over the next, over the life of the municipal development plan and the Calgary Transportation Plan, I think we have to significantly shift that to where the dominant mode is transit, and every opportunity we have to spend $1 on transit other than on roads, I think, is we have to be spending it on transit.
Yeah,
well, I mean, what's the average cost of car ownership in Canada now? It's something like $14,000
well, for Calgarians,
a year, right?
I think it's in the $10,000 to $12,000 range.
So you're seeing the success of something like Car2Go in Calgary, which is the most successful in North America.
Yeah, that's right.
Where Calgarians are sitting there going, wait a second, I'm spending 12 grand a year on my car. I can actually go Car2Go. I can have a car disposable for me anytime, and it's going to cost me $3,000 a year. That's people. I mean, it's
easy math, isn't it?
It is easy. I mean, I say to people all the time, I go, God, take transit, and you need a car on the weekend. You know, you say you need a car, so you have a car on the weekend. Rent a car. Yeah. You can rent a lot of cars, you know, on weekends for $12,000 a year.
Definitely, there's options out there, folks. We're going to take a quick break. If you have any questions, please give us a call, or of course, give us a tweet. Thanks.
I think traffic in the city, I don't know. I've lived born and raised here my whole life. I don't really see the problem. I'm kind of just used to it. Maybe just call it like Calgarian ignorance, I guess. I don't know. I do, as a taxpayer though, disagree with throwing $20 million at interchanges to shave a whole 8 minutes off your commute is just kind of ridiculous. I think there needs to be some sort of mixed plan involving transit and driving, because let's face it, I'm not going to give up my car to go to work. There's no way. It's just not happening. I'm sure there's more people in this town that are like that, because let's face it, Calgary's got a lot of money, and just because they lower the price of transit or improve it, it doesn't necessarily mean all these people are actually going to give up their cars and take transit. It's just not going to happen. There's too much money in this town. Too many people like their big trucks. Too many people like their BMWs. We have a Ferrari dealership here now. It's not really going to happen. As for how to solve the problem, I don't really know. Maybe future planning. Instead of planning a three-lane road each direction, maybe plan a 5-lane road. But when the oil runs out, then you just spend a lot of money on an empty road. So I don't really know.
Hey Calgary, welcome back. Tonight we're discussing our road infrastructure and the ever-increasing traffic problems we face here every day. Now guys, transit, absolutely all well and good. Let's be honest though, a lot of people are just not going to use transit. They prefer to drive their vehicle, they spend money on their vehicle, maybe it's a status thing, a comfort thing, who knows? Right. So, carpooling then. What sort of incentives can we give to people through carpooling? Real incentives.
Real incentives. Well, other cities have done this, HOV lanes, so multi-lanes, car lanes for more than one person in the car. Yeah. It has mixed success. Carpooling, the other thing too is how do you facilitate that? We carpooling parking lots, things like that. Those are the standard tools. But again, I don't think that carpooling, and I don't really know of any city where carpooling has been, hey, this is the panacea.
Is this something the city's explored?
So I think the incentive of providing a higher level of service for somebody who has a multi-passenger vehicle, so a HOV lane, is the standard way to incent ridership.
Not a lot of room to be too creative, I guess, with that. So that's sort of the idea.
It is challenging.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the way to go with a different take on carpooling, and that's what
sorry to cut you off. No, I understand we have a phone call. We don't want our caller to run
away.
away.
No, it's true. Never.
Hello there. What's your name?
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
It's Murray.
Hey, Morgan. Thanks for calling. What's your question?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm in Alderman Pinnacott's ward and that I disagree strongly with some of the comments that he's made.
Okay, fair enough.
And I think part of the problem that you've got is that you're refusing to let supply and demand work with regards to parking downtown. And you've risen parking costs so much that, of course, you're seeing an increase in your alternative transportation modes and your mass transit usage as a result of these sky-high parking rates that we've got that are just absolutely absurd for a city of 1 million people in the middle of the prairies. I pay more downtown than a friend of mine pays in New York City. It's ridiculous.
Thanks very much for the phone call. It's an excellent point. Brian, I'll give you a chance to address that.
If I could, another point or two, and that's that, I think that, apparently I'm not going to be allowed to.
I'll tell you what. It is a 30-minute program. You have to bear with us. Forgive me. So, Brian, parking.
We've got the highest rates in North America.
We do. The highest.
Yeah.
So we're ahead of New York now.
Yeah, we have the highest rates in North America.
He's got to be
I mean, I know that people look at the city as setting it. It's interesting to note that Calgary Parking Authority, which is the city's parking authority, looks at what the private sector is doing, so the Imparks and Sterlings and whoever else, looks at what they're setting for their rates and then sets the city rates just below that. It's also, we, in the last few years, have approved an additional over 8,000 parking spots in the downtown core.
Of which a lot are being taken up by these car-to-go cars, should mention.
150 of them. That's
set to double pretty quick.
150 of 8,000 new ones. Yeah.
Sure.
The other thing too that to increase parking space downtown that was done was getting rid of the meters, which has freed up more parking. But yeah, our parking is very, very high.
Bottom line is this just not? It seems greedy. It seems.
I would disagree with the reader.
The caller. Fair enough.
You get readers all the time.
I mean, I don't own a car, so I'll say that. But so I'm not affected so much by it. But I think that you have to look at kind of systemically what's happened here. Higher cost of parking contributes to this world-class LRT system we have. People want to take the LRT, they want to take the transit system, and we don't pay for the cost of driving our cars around the city. All of those roads, you look at the transportation budget, the largest budget the city has to deal with on an annual basis, in large part because to service the automobile. So people who are driving downtown aren't paying the full cost of the services that are being provided for them to drive the automobiles.
It's true, mind you, but registration, and there is property taxes if you're a homeowner.
But it's, I mean, study after study has shown that the car is not paying for itself in terms of all of the services that had to be provided. And then I think you look at something like what came up recently in the Crowchild Trail. So you have people want to park downtown, they want to drive downtown, living out in the suburbs, and we've given that option of living in the suburbs. So now they live in the suburbs, they have to drive downtown. They're clamoring because Crowchild Trail is jammed up every morning. So now we're gonna spend $1 billion making more interchanges. We're gonna raise a bunch of houses in West Hillhurst in order to provide for that car that's going to come down and park. So I think overall systemically it just doesn't make any sense to do whatever we can to reduce
Would you not agree the high parking rates sort of lend themselves to people taking transit?
There's no question. You can't decouple
part of the plan.
You can't decouple those things. And what is pretty fascinating is that Calgary has like doubled, tripled the downtown core, the employment in the downtown in the last 20 years without adding a single road.
It is an interesting stat. That's a
right
stat.
without
That's
adding
cool.
a single road, and so that has been by having our roadways be more efficient. But that primarily is by people going, okay, you know what? I am going to take transit. I'm going from where I live to downtown. I could go and park my car all day for the highest parking rates in North America, or I can take transit for $95 a month, the C train isn't tied up in traffic. When I lived down the deep southeast, I took the C train every single day. It was always 30 minutes. Didn't matter.
And transit is about C-train, and it's also about bus service. And so the buses have to run on the roads as well. We can't live in a city that doesn't have roads, and we need to make sure that we have a balance between whether we can have options to utilize the C-train. We need a bus, sometimes a car share, cycling, all of those things.
It's about giving options, and you know what? If you want to be smart with your money. I'll give you an example. My ward, I mean, Murray's in my ward, and but in my ward, the communities south of the reservoir, they are hooped for getting out. They're hooped for getting out, and so they look at the Southwest Ring Road as this way to get out of their community. Now, argue whether it actually gets them where they want to go or not.
It probably does eventually.
But that's $1 billion to $2 billion chunk of roadway. For people to get out of their communities south of the reservoir. You take a look at something like transit, and we've done the study, and we can look at getting transit on 14th Street for under $50 million, less than the cost of it.
There's a lot of big numbers being thrown around. I mean, the West LRT,
it's great.
$1.4 billion. You can was that the final?
That's right.
It's a big number.
It's a huge number.
It's a big number. How many more West LRT style sequential stations can we feasibly build?
Well, we talk about 2 more routes, right? We talk about the Southeast LRT and then the North Central LRT, and I don't think that anybody's talking about anything more than that for major LRT projects now. They're quite a ways out, just because of the cost.
The other piece of the transit system that I think would be really nice to see, and I'd like to get these guys' opinion about it, is there's a lot of excitement about the opportunity for streetcars. So kind of the next scale down from your LRT, and filling in the network with streetcars, even looking at some of the old routes that used to exist, right? And,
Fellas, we're going to have you back, because I think we could talk a lot more about all of this. Guys, I do have to take a quick break, though. Folks, our half hour is, well, it's basically up. We'll be right back with our random question wrap-up. Stay with us.
Calgary traffic, where do I begin? There's so many issues with this. There's the problem of sprawl. There's a problem of inadequate roads. There's a problem of transit not being accessible. I think if we first things first, we start with what we have. We make transit a little bit friendlier to encourage students, like college students, university students, to take transit instead of having to have all those cars on the road. There's 30,000 kids at the U of C, for example, and also more kids at Mount Royal at State. If we can have those kids first taking transit, make it cheaper for them and accessible for them, it'll go a long way to taking off the traffic, let's say, on Crowchild Trail. Other than that, just making transit, the pricing of it, the price point accessible. We need to do something, because it can't take an hour to get to work, then an hour back. The quality of life in the city is going way down because of it. And I think it's a major problem. We're not a city of 10 million people. We're a city of 1 million people and growing. If we cannot handle this problem now, what's going to happen once we expand? It's a scary thought.
Welcome back. So guys, where are we in 20 years? What does Calgary look like in 20 years? You start, Gord.
Well, I think you know, there's a pretty easy way to see that we're not going to have lots and lots of money for mega projects. I think the future in the next number of years is also going to be about finding ways to make better use of what we have. And we're looking at ways to use technology to kind of find innovative ways to use what we have better.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, in 20 years, we're going to be maximizing use of infrastructure. So that means, how do we get more out of our roadways? And that is getting into multimodal. It's looking at our land use. It's looking at what do the communities look like that we're now building. It's looking at employment centers and having, you know, we've got one that's building out at Corey Park. I've got one in my ward. So that it isn't all about how do you get hundreds of thousands of people into the downtown core all at the same time and get them out of the downtown core at the same time.
No.
Oh, okay. I'll say it's going to be. We're going to have 2 new major LRT routes. We're going to have. We're going to put back the Beltline streetcar, and more than 10% of people are going to be using their bike for trips. Or 10% of trips are going to be by bike, and I'd say the majority of car trips are going to be using car share.
I really hope that the streetcars make an appearance. Now,
like
guys,
streetcars too.
It's time for our random question wrap-up. The way this works, I have no idea what's on these cards.
All right.
I'm going to let you pick a card there, Gord. I'll read the question, if you wouldn't mind passing that back to me. Oh, it's a fair question. Are you excited about the new racetrack coming to Balzac?
Are you?
Horse racing.
Horse racing. I'm not necessarily a big horse racing fan, so that's not going to be a big draw in terms of entertainment for me. And I don't live in the north part of the city, so I don't have to.
But you're going to go one time, you're going to make 50K. Wait and see.
There you go.
What do you think, Brian?
Am I excited about that?
Getting stoked about
you know, I went to the racetrack once for a friend's stag. I sort of remember it, and it was a lot of fun.
I've never been, so I'll take your word for it. No?
I might check it out at some point, but I think you can check out what I've written about Balzac.
Oh, well, there you go. I will.
Fast forward column
I'll throw it up on our Facebook
last
page.
year.
Mark my words, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Folks, I want to thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully we have shed some light on what is indeed an important issue. As always, we do want to hear from you. We welcome you to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Next week, we're discussing poverty. What does poverty mean to you? Take care. Guys, good job.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Stick around. Thanks.